I walked over to her and I said, "Do you remember where you were?" And she just walked away.
Before Gilbert Gottfried would create one of the most recognizable voices in all of entertainment.
My inner goddess has stopped dancing and is staring too, open-mouthed and drooling slightly.
Before Gilbert Gottfried would refuse to say too soon when it came to the world of comedy.
People were booing and hissing. One guy yelled out too soon, which I thought meant I didn't take a long enough pause between the setup and the punchline.
Before Gilbert Gottfried would pass away after battling what his family referred to as a long illness. Gilbert Gottfried, the legendary stand-up comic and sometimes actor, best known for his squawky voice, not to mention his raw and crude jokes, well, he's passed away at the age of 67. Now let's be honest, a whole bunch of us probably remember Gilbert best for providing the voice of Iago the parrot in the Disney classic Aladdin. But much like his recently deceased friend Bob Saget, well, Gilbert, he was at his best when making people uncomfortable with his comedy. Now his film and television projects might have been family friendly for the most part, but his stand-up knew no bounds, and over the course of his life, well, it would get him into trouble constantly. Now if you ever wanted to know what his true voice sounds like, well, we'll have that and plenty more in our latest entry in Gone But Not Forgotten. Please leave your condolences in the comments down below. Gilbert Gottfried was born in Brooklyn, New York on February 28, 1955. Now a fiercely independent individual with an intentionally bizarre sense of humor, well, Gilbert was raised as the son of a hardware store owner and a stay-at-home mother. At the age of just 15 years old, he began performing stand-up in the New York City comedy circuit.
Thank you! Thank you, man! Oh, thanks! Oh, you're way too kind! Oh, stop! You're too kind! Oh.
His first real piece of national attention, it came when he joined the SNL cast for a 12-episode stint, and that was during season 6 in 1980.
Here it is now, and none too soon. Where in the hell you been, boy?
Nothing. I ain't been doing nothing.
I believe that's the season where no one talks about it. Anyway, given very little airtime and seldom appearing in sketches, well, Gilbert didn't stick around the series for very long. Instead, he headed out west to Los Angeles where he would work the Comedy Store in Hollywood, and he'd earned bit parts in films like Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Don't let the fact that my door's closed dissuade you in any way from entering my office.
Sir, we're at the Beverly Hills Police Department. Are you Mr. Sidney Bernstein?
Yes, lucky guess.
Now, during that same decade, he also became somewhat of a regular over on the Howard Stern's radio program, where he'd impersonate people like Andrew Dice Clay, Groucho Marx, and Bela Lugosi's Dracula.
Very clear.
You know how long I've been waiting for you, Dracula Gottfried?
Millions and millions of lifetimes.
By the 90s, well, Gottfried, he was landing more and more film work with Problem Child, Look Who's Talking To, and of course, Aladdin. Now, providing the voice for Iago in that animated classic, well, Gilbert mesmerized an entire generation of small children with his unique voice that was unlike anything else in the entire world. But here's the kicker. A lot of people didn't understand that this wasn't his actual voice. Now in 2014, when speaking with Time Out New York, well, Gottfried would admit that his voice is something of a put-on, albeit one that he doesn't have to work very hard to achieve. In fact, he told them, "To me, it's kind of like if you see anybody walking down the street or slipping their cup of coffee and you ask them, how did you develop that walk? How did you develop that way of holding a coffee cup? There's no thought to it, just over the years, that's what you are." The one time that Gilbert dropped the voice was during a radio appearance on the Howard Stern show, when Stern surprised everyone with a clip of off-the-air Gilbert from a behind-the-scenes telephone call.
And this is Gilbert's real voice. Just as scary.
Yes.
Yeah, Gary, it's Gilbert.
You're
I'll
kidding.
probably be there tomorrow, but if you could call me up.
Yeah, it really doesn't sound like the man we all know and love. And when you think about it, well, it's pretty amazing that this dude could keep such a consistent vocal range, even when it wasn't part of his natural speaking voice. No more recent years, he even started his own podcast called Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast, and he never dropped the voice, not once. And throughout the course of his career, well, Gilbert, he never got into any trouble for how he sounded, but he would most definitely get into trouble for the things he would say. Gilbert would often refer to tragedy and comedy as roommates with one another, once telling Vulture, "Wherever tragedy's around, comedy's a few feet behind them, sticking his tongue out and making obscene gestures." Now, the most shocking moment of Gottfried's career came at the Friar Club roast of Hugh Hefner in 2001. Now we all know roasts are of course meant to be offensive, but usually the target is the individual being roasted. And sure, Gottfried, he got a good couple jokes in at Hef's expense, like suggesting that the man doesn't need Viagra, he needs cement. But then he went and uttered a gag that sent the entire room into shocked silence. And this was just 2 short weeks after 9/11. He stated,
I have to catch a flight to California. I can't get a direct flight. They said they have to stop at the Empire State Building first.
rather than slink off stage as the quiet audience began to rain down a healthy dosage of booze upon him, well, Gottfried instead launched into his own rendition of the aristocrat joke, one of the most notoriously filthy and offensive gags ever devised. Especially with Gottfried's rendering of it, which involves animals and a family. Look, obviously I can't repeat it here, but if you know, you know. Writing about what happened after the fact, well, Rolling Stone would suggest that Gottfried had committed a serious tactical error that night, but Gottfried disagreed. In fact, he revealed in controversy regardless of what it cost him, and this was neither the first nor last time his comedy cost him something. For instance, back in 1991, he was blacklisted from the Emmys for telling jokes at the ceremony about Pee Wee Herman's actor Paul Rubens' provocativity for, exposing himself to others.
I went on stage and I said, I really sleep better at nights knowing Pee Wee Herman's been arrested. If masturbation's a crime, I should be on death row.
Then after spending years performing as the A-Flack duck on television commercials, he would be fired from the gig for tweeting jokes about the 2011 earthquake and the tsunami that ravaged Japan. That's where he wrote, Japan called me, they said maybe those jokes are a hit in the US, but over here, they're all sinking. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that Gottfried's attitude towards the idea of too much or too soon, well, it was non-existent. And sure, maybe that's the reason why he never truly reached the same level of mainstream success as his peers, like Jerry Seinfeld or Dennis Miller, but the idea that he should pull his punches in comedy is something that offended him. So he simply just never did it. In fact, speaking on this, he told Vulture, you could do jokes around the Lincoln assassination and the Titanic and no one says anything because everyone involved is dead. I actually think that's in worse taste. You're saying, screw all those people who died, I waited for it to become unimportant to us. What's funny is that this shocks the audience. They are responding to the fact that it's tragic, and you're acknowledging it. He even argued that joking about tragedy was simply human nature, a way of coping before the internet made it more natural for many of us to undertake moral posturing and scolding, and whether you agree with him or not, well, this was something that ever bothered Gilbert Gottfried. In a calendar year that has seen us lose comedic legends like Norm Macdonald, Bob Saget, and Louis Anderson, we can now sadly also add to that list Gilbert's name. Now on April 12, 2012, his family posted a loving tribute to Gilbert that informed us all of his surprise passing. The family attributed his death to a long illness, one which his publicist would further clarify by revealing that Gilbert, he suffered from recurrent ventricular tachycardia. That's a form of heart failure caused by nightopic dystrophia type 2, a genetic disorder of progressive skeletal muscle weakness. Sorry, I probably butchered that. I'm not a doctor. Now, it isn't clear when Gilbert was diagnosed with the disease, but the illness has no cure or treatment and typically appears in people while they're in their 20s or 30s. I got a feeling that's kind of why he was probably all slouched over, always had such a tight neck. Now, symptoms of this illness, they include breathing or heart muscle weakness, slurred speech, jaw locking, and prolonged muscle contractions. To make things worse, well, the disease is slowly progressive, meaning that often it's overlooked and it's undiagnosed. About 1 in 8,000 people are diagnosed with either type of this disease, but type 2, which is what Gilbert suffered from, well, it's believed to be the rarer. Gilbert is survived by his wife, Dara, his sister Karen, as well as his children and his 14-year-old daughter Lily and his 12-year-old son Max. Our thoughts as well as our wishes go out to his family during this extremely trying time. At the very least, they can take solace in the fact that Gilbert, he was a man who lived by his convictions and he never once compromised his art for the sake of what other people might think of him. So please drop some of your favorite Gilbert Gottfried memories and clips in the comments down below. Also, take a moment to hit that bell and turn on notifications so you can be alerted for each time we drop a new video. My name, of course, is Michael McCrudden, and if you'll excuse me, I've got an old black diamond edition of Aladdin on VHS that I gotta dust off and throw in the, what do we call those? What do you, VHS player? VHS player? The movie player, the movie box. Anyway, brain fart there. See you guys in another video. Boom.